all-around wide receivers to ever play at Louisiana State University. After 3 successful seasons of playing college football for the NCAA champions LSU Tigers, Michael was a first-round pick, the 15th pick overall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2004 NFL Draft. In his first year, Michael ranked 5th all-time in NFL history among rookies, with 80 receptions for 1,193 yards and 7 touchdowns, ranking him first on the Buccaneers in receiving touchdowns for that season. That stellar season led numerous publications to select him to the all-rookie team. With 8 years in the NFL, one of Michael's biggest accomplishments is averaging over 14 yards per reception in 2009 and extending his streak of averaging over 10 yards per reception since joining the league. Michael signed with the New York Giants in 2010, becoming a Super Bowl 46 champion in 2012. His off-the-field accomplishments include, originally, he's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and is a dedicated family man. He's a business entrepreneur and a philanthropist. In 2004, Michael started the Clayton M5 LLC with his father, a real estate development company in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, dedicated to developing eco-friendly and affordable housing for low-income communities. Michael also runs the Michael Clayton Generation Next Foundation, a nonprofit organization aiding local charities such as the Ronald McDonald Care Mobile and the Tampa Pediatric Cancer Foundation. Michael Clayton says, as a professional athlete and an individual whose life has been affected by cancer, I remain passionately committed to raising awareness about cancer and organizations that provide support for those affected. One of Michael's biggest events is the Michael Clayton Celebrity Hoops Jam, a celebrity basketball game to raise money for the foundation. Since playing for the Giants from 2010 to 2012, Michael participated in the 3rd annual AER Walk with Style Fashion Gala based in New York to benefit cancer, and the Cause for Celebration event to benefit St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Michael also held his inaugural Baton Rouge Rush football minicamp to benefit St. Jude's Research Hospital. In addition, Michael speaks yearly at numerous prisons, schools, churches, in efforts to empower and motivate underprivileged youth on the topics such as education, gangs, and drug abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Michael Clayton.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, addressing you guys about the importance of fatherhood. I was blessed to be a child who was raised in the same home as my father. And when I hear a speaker announce all of my accolades and all of my accomplishments in life, I can only attribute those success factors to one man in my life, which was my father. Growing up as a kid, I didn't really know what it meant to have a provider in the home. I was a kid who woke up every day. My dad would feed me before he had to go to work, and then I was trusted enough in the 2nd grade to walk out to the school bus and catch the school bus and go to school on my own with my 4-year-old brother. My mother worked as a school teacher, and together my father and mother provided their very best way to raise us. Now, there's no pamphlet on how to be a good father. You know, there's no sayings that can make you a better father than another father because of your situation is different. If he has money, he may have a better opportunity to raise his kid, and I'll be the one to tell you that that is not true. Watching my father go to work every day, and as right before I went to bed, I would see him come home from work It was the only real quality time that I would ever really spend with my father because he worked all the time. It was one thing that he instilled in me was how to get up and be passionate about going to work. The thing that I took from that was the love that my father had for me. The minutes that he would spend with me coming in and ask me, did I shoot those 100 jump shots that he told me to shoot every day? Or did I throw the football up and catch football or baseball with my brother? Did I do that day? And if I said no, he would send me out to the courtyard and he'd say, I'll watch you from my bedroom. You go out there and get your shots in. Now, as a kid, you know, some people in some households would complain about the time that a father spends with their kids. Maybe they may say that they may not value that 1 or 2 or 3 minute conversation. They may say that you need to spend more time with your kids. But as a kid, knowing that that's all I had, and the only thing that I knew deep down was that my father loved and cared for me, I didn't have to really see my dad much more than the time that he spent with me. That was my expectation of a father. Growing up, my father had a child out of wedlock before he married my mother. My brother's name was Snow. And growing up, when Snow would come for Christmas and holidays, it was the best time of my life. Now here I have a brother and we have different mothers, but yet it just lit a light in me to see my brother for holidays. My dad provided us with this type of love by being courageous enough to bring his son from Mississippi to spend time with us growing up as a kid. I didn't know, to me, at the time, my dad was everything. My dad set a great example. And when I turned 19, I had my first kid coming out of high school. I was one of the kids who was a very rebellious kid. And though my mother loved me, and though my mother tried to send me down a path of righteousness and honesty, I got caught up in the friends that I had and the lifestyles and the influences that they were influenced by. So a lot of the things that I would do as a kid didn't quite match up to what my mother wanted me to be. And I had a child at 19. And to me, as I grew older, I kind of realized how difficult it was, or may have been, for my brother Snow to not see his dad every day, to not see his brothers every day. And when I had my first child, I initially took on the responsibility of taking care of that child. My first daughter, at 19 years old. She came to school with me when I was in college 3 days out of the week. I had her every other weekend because me and her mother were not together. And I raised this child to be better than the example that my father set for me. Though my father was a person who I idolized and always wanted to be like, he still had his flaws. But the reality is he gave his very best effort. What I learned from that is to spend each and every day with my daughter up to when she was 2 years old and until I got drafted. What I learned from that was how this child propelled me to have success in college. What I learned from this child was that how to love, how to care. My parents said some mean things when I had this child. As you know, a lot of us as parents, when we have children and they have children, before that moment that they're ready, there's some frustrations. And a certain pride that I had conflicted with what my parents would say. Oh, you done messed up your life now. We don't have time to raise no kids. And though they loved me And though they will always loved their grandbaby, one thing that I realized in that moment was that this child that I had was my responsibility and nobody else's. When I was in college, I never asked not one person for $1 that I didn't want to work for. I never not one time asked my parents for not one penny, because it was my responsibility at the age of 19 to take care of this child. The reality of me taking care of my child at 19 years old, she took care of me and didn't know it. Out of love and respect and the willingness to be a great father, or in fact the best father that I could be, I learned how to be a man. So many of us as fathers neglect our families because maybe it's the mother that we can't get along with, and we just write off our kids like we're taking off a dirty shirt. So easily we don't look in the future when it comes to our children and what they can be. One of the hardest things for me ever to do was to leave my daughter when she was 2 years old, when I got drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And since then, I fought for time. Every holiday, every summer, my daughter spends with me. But it does not take away the feeling of a father being absent because she does not live with me. The one thing that brought me close, and now I see this, my daughter is 12 years old and I do have 2 other kids, but I was able to see how God led me to be the greatest father that I can be. When I had to leave my daughter, I prayed every single day. To this day, my daughter is 12 years old. Every single day, I'm on my knees asking God to fulfill that absent feeling in her life with God's love. And to this day, my daughter will call me and ask me to pray with her. She's not in my home. To this day, my daughter, when she comes down, she understands the values that Daddy has. She's not in my home. She understands that Daddy loves her unconditionally. She's not in my home. So many fathers tend to just walk away. The sad thing is that that father may be just a few minutes up the road. 2 weeks ago, I flew down to Houston, $600 to watch my 12-year-old daughter run her first track meet. And you would think that you would see your kid run a few times, you know, and get to experience the same experiences that my dad experienced with me. And she ran one little curve, and for the rest of the day she sat on the side. But her smile, that her daddy was there, meant something to her. The feeling that I get after becoming an author, and my daughter now smart enough to read about how she affected my life and what she means to me and who she is as a person because who her daddy is. The feeling that I get when I see her crack that book open and read about her father is a thing that I can't explain. When I got married and I had my 2 kids, I felt that I was fully prepared to be a father. I realized that when I was in college, I missed a lot of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go hang out with my boys. I wanted to go to those parties. But 3 days out of the week, and a young man full of pride, I had to take care of my daughter. My daughter led me to get married because it was one of the toughest things that I ever had to do. Mothers, I commend you because it is not easy raising a kid every day. Fathers, I commend you for those who have stood tall in your families, knowing that God arranged this order God, Jesus Christ, man, wife, children. We as fathers have the responsibility to align our families. If we don't align ourselves with where our true greatness comes from, we will see continuously this epidemic that has drained our generation and deprived it from its success. So many of us in this room may think at times that because of how you were raised or what you have, then that amounts to your value. When here stood before you a man, Mr. Thaddeus, who came from nothing, but yet had the will and the teachings in him already to become the man who he was designed to be. Young people, I tell you this, everything that you need to survive in this life is already in you, with or without a father. If you're unfortunate in this room to not go home and see your father every single day, know that there's a God upstairs that is protecting you from maybe some of those bad influence that father who is not willing to be with that child would influence you in that negative way. Be thankful that you have a loving mother who will replace his absence with her undying love. Be thankful that you have loved ones, aunts, uncles, coaches, pastors, professional athletes who are willing to spend time with you so that you may become your very best self. Fatherhood is very tough. It is very difficult. So many of us come into fatherhood, as I did, before we're ready. 19 years old, future ahead of me, and I had my first child. I had a choice to walk away from my family and not value that child's life. I made a choice to stay strong, to be a leader, to pray for my child every single day, to pray with my kids every single night, to set an example of what a real father should be. We're not perfect. God says it. Nobody's perfect. But each and every one of us has a desire in our hearts to be our very best self. And there's only one way that we can do that. This book that I carry around with me all the time, though I walk around life sometimes stressed, sometimes lost. I'll never forget when the NFL closed its doors on me and fired me from the Bucks. And the only thing that could bring me peace at that moment was the words that was in this book. The only thing that could save me from the embarrassment of coming to my kids who've only known their father to be in the NFL, the only thing that saved me from the embarrassment, because embarrassed is what I felt, was the words in this book. I didn't know my journey and what I was destined to be until I started to read this book. I realized what God has given me in my parents, in my grandparents, in my mother. I realized that all of the examples that He set before me has given me an opportunity to better my life. To look at one's weaknesses or flaws and not degrade them or put them down, but to learn from them and better myself. As a father, I don't have to struggle and try to do everything right. But I do know this. If I can guide my kids based on this word, which is true, if I can be committed to give them a life of prayer, to teach them how I had to get through my tough times in life, to educate them in knowing that there's one true Father, there's one true healer, there's one true person who loves you unconditionally and will guide you through your life, no matter how young you are or how old you are. As a father, if you take that initiative to instill this in your children, when you get older, if you take this initiative to instill in your children, I promise you without a doubt, you will not steer your kids wrong. The fathers in this building, I can't tell you how much of an honor it is to have children who look up to you and call you dad. It's all that they will ever know. Our faults and shortcomings are their examples of their best. My father bringing in his child every holiday, every once, twice a year, that was my expectation. I couldn't live by that expectation because I wanted more. And it's up to each and every one of you to want more out of life. To never be content, which means never be satisfied. Never be satisfied with life. Always continue to work harder, to do better. Know that everybody goes through things. Everybody goes through the fire. But everybody also is given a gift. Everyone in this room has a specific gift. And young people, when you mature, you'll understand what your gifts are meant to be used for. We see entertainers and rappers who have a gift to putting words together, who so easily pollute our minds as children and even grown-ups with the words that they say, not knowing that their gifts to put together words, you can have the same impact by saying and rapping something positive and helping change in someone's life. Each and every one of us has a gift. He provided me with the gift to play football. Provided Mr. Thad here a gift to wrestle. But I tell people this, especially those who are looking to entertainment for their purpose in life. Sports, it's inevitable that it's going to end one day. Purpose in life lasts forever. Playing sports is only a stepping stone so that we may fulfill purpose. So to those young people looking at us, wanting to be like us, understand this, that we as athletes utilize what we do so that we can fulfill our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is to be just like that village who helped raise that child. To be that community leader, to stand before you and help you get better, especially to those youth who don't have fathers in your home. We utilize this platform to give you a message of hope and a message of life. And I hope and I pray that each and every one of you are on the path to be just who we are. Because this is what makes a difference. Scoring touchdowns and catching balls never made a difference, guys. It never made a difference. Walking into a room and telling you my story about how many times I failed as a father, how many times I failed as an individual, but yet each and every time I got back up and I bettered myself. Those are the things that are life-changing. Those are the things that make a difference. There's so many things that we can think about as individuals. But know this. I like to tell this story because to me it gives me what I need. And we all go through things at some point in our lives. 3 children walking to a silversmith shop, and they see a silversmith burning silver. And as the silversmith was burning this silver, the silver was black, ugly. It looked like a coal-like substance. And as this silver hit the fire, you saw this black and coal and rust begin to fall off. And what was labeled as this precious metal called silver, you actually can start to see what this metal would be. As the silversmith let this coal-like substance sit on the fire that began to turn into silver, if he left it in the fire too long, it would melt and it wouldn't reach its full value. If that silversmith didn't leave it in the fire long enough, it would still be dark. It would still have blemishes on it. And it wouldn't reach its full value, its full potential. How does that silversmith know when to take that silver out of the fire? That silversmith knows when to take the silver out of the fire when he can see a reflection of himself. We all go through things, young people, fathers. We all have tough times that make us want to run away. We all go through things, young people, success stories that happen without fathers in the home. But in the midst of your fire, all God wants to see is a reflection of himself. And when you think that your life is too difficult to manage, but you've done your diligence and you've let God see a reflection of himself, he'll take you out of the fire just like the silversmith does at the right time. Embrace your fire, people. Embrace your tough times, because as pressure breeds diamonds and fire sharpens steel, God teaches us through our tough times. And I feel your pain when there's a young person, when you ask them, where's daddy? And they tell you, I don't know. Over the past 3 days, I got a chance to ask 10 people, not knowing what I was going to talk about. Hey man, tell me something about your dad. And unfortunately, 10 out of 10 of the random people that I asked said, I don't know my dad. 1 out of the 10 said, well, you know what? I do know my daddy, and I saw him go to work every day, but when my mama left him, I ain't spoke to him since. Now this is 10 random people, y'all. And it's unfortunate that this is the standard of which we live by. The young people in this room, you have an opportunity to change that. I write in this book about breaking the generational curse. And this is telling you how you're designed to break your generational curse. If you are a child without a father, if you are a parent who didn't have a father, the ways to break the generational curse so that your kids can be blessed, generation, and their kids can be blessed. And we as fathers have to create that. We as fathers have to set the tone in that. And we have to teach our children so that they will be raised up in the light of Jesus Christ. Thank you so much.